Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he want to bring a Bible with him or some shit.
Yes, you heard correctly. Foolio's killers are losing it, and it just got real. One of them passed out in court after receiving a heavy sentence, and the others, let's just say, didn't hold it together either. The real question is, though, was it just the life sentence that broke them? Word on the street is that they're scared that Fio's people are waiting for them inside, ready to handle business. I have all the details. Let's get started. But was supposed to be just another sentencing? But what transpired inside that Florida courtroom on a humid June morning left even the bailiff stunned. The room fell into a chilling silence as one of Fio's killers collapsed, going limp and crashing to the courtroom floor immediately after hearing the words "life without parole." Another co-defendant stared blankly at the wall as if he realized for the first time that he would never breathe outside air again after his mother screamed. The defendant sobbed, and most shocking of all, the person who pulled the trigger attempted to fire his attorney and represent himself in a case involving the death penalty. Before we show you the literal breakdown of a killer, you must comprehend what they did and why it has rocked the Florida judicial system. A guy facing the death penalty believed he would be the best defense in a trial set up to bury him alive. Charles Jones, born Julio Foolio, was not just any rapper. He was one of Jacksonville's most notorious and feared voices. He was also someone's son, and on June 22nd, he was in Tampa celebrating his birthday when he was shot dead outside a hotel in a targeted ambush carried out by 3 men who allegedly followed his every move on social media and GPS tracking. His car was riddled with at least 31 bullets. Police later released surveillance footage of the incident. 3 shooters crept across the parking lot, rifles in hand, aimed and ready, and they didn't hesitate. Fio was sitting in the front passenger seat when they opened fire, and he didn't even have time to flee.
Let's look at this video. This is at the hotel, and you can see the shooters are getting in position for their planned out murder, and they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at him. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle.
These suspects weren't experienced criminals. They were meticulous and had observed Fio's movements. One of them was allegedly his ex-girlfriend, and another was a young woman named Alicia Andrews, who was pregnant at the time. She allegedly followed Fio from club to club that night, texting updates to her crew like a spotter in a military operation.
School. 4 guys, 1 girl. The girl's pregnant currently,
Yeah.
which makes it even crazier. One of the guys, when they were arresting him, I guess he had a gun to his head. Did you hear this whole story?
Yeah, they said he was suicidal, and he started talking about he want to bring a Bible with him.
This group, who are between the ages of 18 and 30, you're accused of carrying out one of the most well-known rape killings in recent memory. Their trial is currently ongoing, and some of them could be executed. The state isn't playing around. Declared that it is considering the death penalty in this case.
Signs that things are gonna go very bad for them. Like, you got a girl in it, she's pregnant, he's suicidal, wants a Bible. It's not going good.
Not going good for who?
For the killers.
This is when things become even more gloomy. One of the main defendants, Rashad Murphy, had his lawyer fired. He had requested to represent himself in a first-degree murder case that could result in a lethal injection. The court had warned him, but Murphy persisted. In a bizarre turn of events, Murphy also requested a speedy trial, and in a handwritten letter to the judge, he complained that he was being treated as though he was already guilty. He claimed he was not permitted to make phone calls, write letters, or prepare for his own defense, and he pleaded for access to legal documents. The overwhelming evidence against them is one of the reasons Murphy could be spinning, according to those who think it was a trick and others who think it was a man, already breaking under the weight of what he had done.
Well, it's not like they're going to get off for this.
No, they got so much evidence against them. Like, when you go through it, you can pretty much just, all right, pick a prison. Where do y'all want to go? It's not, you can't even come up with a defense.
Ring cam footage of the suspects packing firearms into duffel bags and GPS information from their phones, tracking each stop, were obtained by detectives. In addition to bullet casings from the murder site that matched weapons discovered in the suspects' residences, Foolio created text conversations between suspects discussing the crime beforehand.
They found bullets in that kid's house. They found one of the murder weapons. They found bullets matching from the shooting scene. This kid kept collectibles from the case, like mad inside of his house.
One of the defendants, sitting a few feet away from Foolio's distraught mother, passed out when prosecutors disclosed all of this in court. No camera was permitted to record it directly, but witnesses said he fell out of his chair, shivering and murmuring, "I can't breathe." Let's take a moment to reflect on how the internet turned violence into virality, where dissing dead rivals is just another way to rack up streams. Where grieving mothers browse YouTube only to find songs mocking their children's deaths. Unclear whether this was fear, guilt, or the sudden realization that he would be spending the rest of his life in a concrete box. But one thing is certain: the walls are closing in. 6 people have lost their futures as a result of this toxic culture. 1 is dead, 5 may never be released from prison, and 1 is expecting a child who may grow up seeing mom through glass. However, the evidence trail is even more damning than anyone could have predicted. And one defendant may have unintentionally exposed everyone because he wanted social media clout. How did we get here? Prosecutors claim Foolio's killing was not an impulsive choice. It was a well-planned attack that began at home long before they arrived and involved synchronized monitoring, many vehicles traveling outside of town, and powerful guns. Tampa footage revealed Rashad Murphy as one of the suspects. Security cameras saw Davian Murphy and Sean Gathite loading bags large enough to hide firearms in a residential area. It was later determined that the bag contained at least 2 assault-style weapons.
Very clearly meeting at Sean Gathite's house on his video camera, where they are loading up big bags that are definitely big enough to hold these assault rifles that were.
Among the most unsettling aspects, investigators claim that Alicia Andrews and Isaiah Chance, lookouts pretending to be friends, were following Foolio's every move from the club to the after-party and eventually to the hotel where he was killed. Foolio's last hours were essentially live-streamed by Foolio himself as he posted videos of his birthday celebration on Instagram.
He was killed.
Jones was in town celebrating his birthday and posted on his social media his locations several times throughout that night. Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location.
The gunmen did not immediately pull into the hotel. Instead, they waited across the street. At 4:38 a.m., 3 of them exited their car and proceeded toward the house, which had 2 suites. Armed with 2 rifles and a handgun, they fired 31 shots at Foolio's SUV. 3 further passengers in the car were struck as well, but they miraculously survived.
This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident. It's clear from that video what they were set out to do and what they had planned to do.
Why would 5 young individuals be motivated? According to police and prosecutors, one of them was pregnant when they planned and carried out an execution-style shooting on a public street. The reason was traditional street retribution, and one of the shooters apparently had a brother named Spaz who had been murdered by someone in Foolio's group.
Murder though.
No, I mean, it's actually pretty ugly what happened, because one of the suspects, their brother, Spaz, was allegedly killed by one of Foolio's friends.
Yeah.
Foolio rapped about him, and I believe there's a video of him urinating on his grave.
There's multiple videos of Foolio dissing us.
These 5 left for Tampa without a diss track, but with guns, bullets, burner phones, and a plan. The twist is that they weren't clever enough to conceal the evidence, in fact. They essentially wrapped it in gift wrap for the police. Foolio not only rapped about it, but he also made fun of it in videos, including ones that showed someone peeing on Spaz's grave, which isn't art. That's a declaration of war. Let's go over the list. From Jacksonville to Tampa, the phone of Alice. Andrews was monitored and each place matched. The suspects were apprehended by Foolio that night after license plate readers picked up the vehicles used in the ambush surveillance from inside the hotel. Forensic analysis of spent shell casings matched rifles found at Rashad Murphy's home. And one of the suspects even kept souvenirs and bullet fragments in his home text messages, which demonstrated a joyous mood following the murder, including one that said, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally..."
Caught on license plate cameras. He used his mama's car. His mama said, "I ain't had that car, then my son had it."
They were so arrogant, Rashad Murphy, in particular, thought he could outsmart the system. So he left his phone at home and used everyone else's. Then, in the most audacious move of all, he asked to represent himself in court. Even his lawyer told the judge that this was insane, but Murphy persisted, arguing that the conditions of his incarceration prevented him from having a fair opportunity to prepare. Back in November, Murphy pulled out the insanity defense, but the catch is that you cannot claim insanity if the evidence demonstrates that you carefully planned a murder. That's the exact opposite of being insane.
I think this guy's nuts. I think that's why. I mean, he wants to defend himself, which is insane in a death penalty case. And then he actually has said that he may use an insanity defense, which also is insane in itself when the facts show otherwise, that these guys had meticulous planning and attempts to cover up crime. And when you have that, good luck in getting an insanity defense, because to sustain an insanity defense, you have to have an established medical condition and you have to not know the difference between right and wrong. But when you meticulously plan and then try to cover up your tracks, that shows you knew the difference between right and wrong. It shows you knew what you did was illegal. And when you want to just try to put forward an insanity defense as your own lawyer, it doubles the level of difficulty.
Murphy's defense may already be dead on arrival, and if he insists on representing himself in court, he may implicate his co-defendants. For this reason, those close to the other suspects are in a panic, particularly Alicia Andrews, who is the only one who hasn't waived her right to a speedy trial. Legal analysts think she might be working with the prosecution, which makes sense because she is young, pregnant, and may want to watch her child grow up. However, the story doesn't end there. Inside their jailhouse meltdown, it became evident that someone spoke, and early rumors in the courtroom pointed to a single name. Despite being charged with first-degree murder like the men who pulled the gun, Alice Andrews, who was just 21 and pregnant at the time of the murder, requested a swift trial, a decision that many legal experts saw as a warning or an indication of collaboration.
And then they just recently did it where the girl isn't waiving her right to a speedy trial, and they believe she's gonna cooperate.
Right. Actually, one of my members, Kilcon RL, mentioned that. He said Alicia Andrews, who's the girl who's pregnant, she asked for a speedy trial, but the other three waived that. So yeah, I guess that means she's cooperating now. But
Andrews gave a thorough interview to police immediately after her arrest, admitting to being there and confirming their movements throughout Tampa, although she refrained from naming the shooter. She provided more than enough information to pinpoint her crew's precise location to the prosecutor's requirements. However, it wasn't just the court documents that sealed it.
Alicia, the girl, she gave an interview with police right when she got picked up. So she's already spoke to them and confirmed, oh yeah, we were here.
In a decision that has shocked defense lawyers, the court allowed the use of previous gang-related killings as admissible evidence, specifically to demonstrate motive. Andrews played the role of modern-day recon, helping the killers track their target both physically and digitally, much like something straight out of a military operation, but far more illogical. Investigators then used her phone's GPS history to track the group's path from club to club, B&B to hotel. She may not have pulled the trigger.
I do find, generally speaking, that this is evidence that does help create motive and intent and explain the crimes charged.
The murder of Julio Foolio wasn't a singular incident. Rather, it was the culmination of a protracted conflict between 6 Block ATK and 1200, two of Jacksonville's most dangerous rap factions. These conflicts weren't artistic disputes. Rather, they were body-for-body battles in which insults were retaliated with blood. and Andrew's boyfriend was purportedly associated with one of these rival groups. The judge let all of it be recorded because one of the shooters lost a sibling in the rivalry, and the brother's grave was desecrated in a Foolio music video.
This is something in Jacksonville that is very well known. These videos, both by our victim as well as by the rival gangs, are posted immediately. It's in the public domain, and it details this long-standing feud.
Even worse, it appears that some of the shooters themselves gave up the goods without realizing it. Let's talk about Rashad Murphy. As you are already aware, he and his co-defendants packed up bags big enough to contain the precise types of rifles used in the murder. However, investigators say that Rashad was clever enough to leave phone at home and use other people's devices instead, which the state subpoenaed and traced throughout Tampa. One of the killers even paid for expenses using a Cash App card, which police tracked using purchase history and IP addresses. Additionally, when questioned, the card he was using was captured on camera in Rashad's mother's car, and when asked if she acknowledged it, she said, "Yeah, my son had it." It was game over. Perhaps the most horrifying detail of all, though, is that one of the murderers reportedly texted, "I'm coming home. My thirst is finally quenched," after the murder.
That's the same guy who, after the murder, allegedly sent out the text, "I'm coming home, my thirst is finally quenched." Like, it was a mission for him. So, I mean, if we're talking about motive, that's classic get back, right? Hey, his people did something to my brother. They kept laughing about it. They've desecrated his gravesite. This is a rapper who's been known to make videos at gravesite or laugh at the dead. Now we get to
A declaration, a confession, and a celebration. Something much greater than 5 careless individuals is responsible for this entire disaster. It's a culture that turned funerals into marketing and death into content. Theo himself took part in it, making fun of his deceased rivals and filming videos at their grave sites. However, in the process, he lit a fuse that eventually exploded, leaving his name etched on a toe tag along with the names of the shooter's children, one of whom was only 18 years old and had a history of alleged shootings dating back to when he was 17. What transpired over the course of 5 years turned a boy on Twitch into a boy with a gun, and the police had no chance of stopping it. The true tragedy of this situation is how avoidable it all was, and how social media turned into the new corner, where threats are posted in captions and revenge is gauged by likes and shares. Law enforcement in Florida is prepared for increased violence. The state is drawing a line. They want this case to be the one that sets the tone from rap feuds to life terms. But detectives think the gang battle may not be done, since there are still individuals out there with firearms, grudges, and now martyrs. How does a guy feel when he sees his future disappear? At first, Sean Gathright, who was only 18 years old, didn't flinch when Hillsborough County prosecutors brought the defendants into court one by one to face their fates. However, when the details of the surveillance footage were revealed, it was unlike anything local reporters had seen in years. This wasn't just a legal proceeding. It was a revelation. The forensics of firearms, the text messages, the receipts for the Cash App, all of the evidence was piled up around him like a wall. Witnesses in the courtroom claimed that he stumbled forward, his eyes fixed on the floor, and repeatedly said to himself, I'm not killing him." But prosecutors didn't care who fired the first shot in Florida, because if you assist in planning a murder, even if you never touch the gun, you're just as guilty. Sean wasn't just involved. He was caught on camera getting ready for the ambush. But he stole the show for all the wrong reasons. When the court was called to order, Rashad did something that even seasoned lawyers were shocked by. And he fired his lawyer once more, in spite of warnings from the judge, his attorney, and even the prosecutor that he was making a grave error. Rashad insisted on defending himself, arguing that the jail conditions were similar to witnessing someone attempt self-surgery with a butter knife in front of a live audience. In a handwritten letter to the judge, he claimed he wasn't being treated. fairly, and that he wasn't allowed to make calls, send letters, or access legal records. He told the judge that he was being treated as though he had already been found guilty, and that the deputies wouldn't let him do any favors by allowing him to prepare for his case, send mail, or call his lawyer. However,
the fact that there are innocent victims in every homicide case, the loved ones who are left behind. His fans knew him as Foolio, but to his mom, he's Charles. We're fighting to make sure that
even justice felt cold, though, because what no one discusses and what doesn't trend on Twitter or go viral on TikTok is what happens after the shooting ends and the sentencing. When mothers return home by themselves and watch that surveillance footage in their minds. And when a child grows up and visits their mother through a thick glass window because she followed a man who sought fame by chasing a body count. Investigators now think that Young and Ace Foolio's most well-known rap rival may have known about the murder in real time, which is a shocking twist. This case is the quintessential tragedy of our time. Clout killed. Fio's loyalty buried the suspects, and TikTok turned it all into entertainment. DJ Academics disclosed that while he was questioning young Gene Ace, the authorities were conducting simultaneous arrest raids.
The moment Young and Ace was sitting with me for the interview, the cops were raiding the guys. The exact moment. Everybody who got locked up for the murder, the 3 simultaneous arrests, happened exactly when he's talking to me. And I think, I don't know what his perspective is now, but his perspective is then, and maybe he just doesn't know it. He was like, ain't nothing gonna come with this.
It's unclear if Ace knew directly, but the message was clear regardless of whether it was deliberate or just a coincidence that a bottle of Don Julio was sitting on the table next to him because it was his preferred beverage. Foolio was torched online, so we're waiting while the trials continue. This year, it is anticipated that Alice Andrews will go before a jury first. The gang conflict that led to this catastrophe is still going strong, and authorities have already prepared for reprisal, as one sheriff stated, and Rashad Murphy's solo performance might end in disaster or a last-minute plea.
Fortunately, I think young people think this is a game. And, there'll be comments about this in the statement that I make, and they make it like it's a video game. It's not. This is real life. So he has a mother, he has parents, siblings, probably friends, and they have to deal with these kind of losses, and it's unfortunate. Now the next thing is these groups, and I won't name them, they know who they are. We're not going to tolerate any retribution, any revenge. We're going to watch. We're going to be around paying attention to what's going on, but it's unfortunate. It should never happen to our kids. And I've never seen so much devaluing of human life. It's like it's fun, and they talk about it in rap videos and songs, and it's just...
In a world where music videos or murder diaries and funerals are live streamed, who is listening? If you liked this video, the next one is only a click away. Check out the suggestions on your screen right now for more similar content. This case was never about rap. Rather, it was about power, revenge, ego, and who gets the last post. The courtroom has spoken.